Okay, what's going on, everybody? So it's time to learn another cool story in Breslov. This story is called the Menorah Rebbe in Hebrew. In English, it's called the story of the guest. And this story was said over by Rebbe Nachman on the first night of Chanukah after he lit the menorah. And it's found in the Sefer Chaye Moran, which is Rebbe Nachman's life story. And this Sefer contains a lot of awesome information about Rebbe Nachman's journeys and his life, and where he lived and where he was born and different sayings, and it's a very, very special book. And inside this book, there's a section called Sipurim Chadashim, new stories that Rebbe Nachman had said over. There's visions and dreams and different stories, and one of these stories is this story of the guest. So we're going to read it, and it's a very deep, mystical, trippy story. The minhag by some of the Breslovers was by Chanukah to learn this sikha, to learn this story and to explain it, but we're not going to explain it now. We're just going to read it because it's very important to read anything that Rebbe Nachman said over. And if you think of a cool explanation, then that's awesome for you. Okay? So it says over here, Tav Kuf Samach Tes Aleph de Chanukah, in the year 1808, the first night of Chanukah, Acher Hadlachas Ner Chanukah, after Rebbe Nachman lit the menorah. It says that a guest entered into somebody's house and he asked the owner of the house, "Where do you have money from? What is your parnasa?" And he answered him, "I do not have a parnasa. I get supported from the world. People give me food, whatever." And the guest asked him, "What are you learning?" And he answered him what he's learning. He doesn't say what he's learning, but he answered him what he was learning, obviously. And they started schmoozing and talking until they got into very, very deep, mystical types of conversations. And the Balabayas, the owner of the house, started having a lot of great yearning, and he was mishtaikik for something holy. And he was like, how am I talking to somebody so holy? Who is this guy? And the guest said to him, I will teach you and I will learn with you. And then the Balabayas, this owner of the house, started thinking that maybe this guy is not a human at all. It says over here, Einoi ben Adam Klal. Maybe he's something more spiritual or something like that. But then he said, what do you mean? How could he not be human? He's sitting right in front of me. He looks like a human or whatever. And he's saying, I'm talking to him just like a regular person talks to a different person. So right away he decided, okay, fine, this guy is cool. And he believed in him. And he started calling him Rebbe. And he said to the guest, he said to his now new Rebbe, he said to him, before we start learning, I want you to teach me how I am supposed to give you proper cover. How am I supposed to honor you? Because you're so holy. Because he said, like, it's very hard to honor somebody all the time. And I want you to know how to do it the best way, the best way that I can do it. And the guest said to him, right now, I do not have any time. A different time, I will come and I will teach you this. But right now, I need to go. And the Balabayas, the owner of the house, said to the guest, this also I need to learn from you. How far do I need to escort you out of the house? Right? There's an Indian when somebody leaves their house, to walk them out. So he says, how far do I need to walk you out of the house? And the guest said to him, only until after the doorway. And now the owner of the house started thinking, okay, fine, I'm going to walk with him outside the house. Right now, I'm in my house. I'm in my safe space. I'm with other people. I guess other people live in the house. But if I go with him outside, I don't know who he is. Because he still was thinking this guy maybe was something not human or something like that. So he said to him, I'm scared to go outside with you. And he answered him, I don't know what that means. He says, if I can already learn with you, then also now I can also do something with you. Meaning, like, even if inside the house I could do something to you, it doesn't mean outside the house for sure I could do something, but inside the house I'm already sitting here with you, so for sure I could do something with you. So the owner of the house, okay, fine. So he went outside. He walked him outside after the door, and right away this guest Chataf was like, he kidnapped him. He I don't know if he used the word kidnap, but he grabbed onto him, and they started flying in the air. And it was very, very cold, and the guest, his Rebbe, took a piece of clothing and gave it to him, and he says, take this clothing, and it will be good for you, and you will have food and drink and all the good, and you will sit in your house. And he flew with him. And b'toich kach, during all this time, the owner of the house looked, and he's sitting inside his house. He wasn't flying. He's like, what do you mean? I was just flying. How am I in my house? But then he saw again, then he looked again, and then he saw that he was sitting with people in his house and eating and drinking. And then he looked again, and he saw that he was flying in the air. And then he saw again that he was in his house. So something crazy, trippy was happening over here. And then he saw again that he was flying. And this happened many times. He was going from different scenes in different places to different things like that. Flying, not flying, in his house, eating, all this. After a while, the guest who was flying with him, who picked him up and they were flying in the sky together, he dropped him off in between two mountains inside a valley. And he found a sefer there. And inside the sefer was Tzirufi Oisius, the letters Aleph, Zayin, and Ches, Hu Hashem, Hu Daled. Right, there was some letters written there. And inside the sefer there was drawings of vessels, different types of kalim. And inside the kalim there were letters. And inside the kalim were the Oisius of the kalim, or the letters of the kalim. But through those letters, you could make these types of vessels. And he had a great cheshek to learn this sefer. And then again, he saw that he was in his house. And yet he was not in a valley looking at this tripped out sefer with these pictures of vessels in it. And then he saw again that he was now in the valley. And he decided to go up the mountain. Maybe he'll find like a town over there or something. And he came to the mountain. He saw that there was a golden tree with golden leaves, and hanging on the leaves, there were these vessels that were like the vessels that were in this book that he found. And inside the kalim that were hanging on the trees, there were other kalim. That through those kalim, through those vessels, you make the other vessels. And he wanted to take from their vessels, but he wasn't able to, because they were like attached to the tree in a confusing way, and he couldn't figure it out. And then again he looked and he saw that he was in his house, and it was a great pliya gedol. This was a great wonderment. What is going on over here? That one time he's here, one time he's there, and he wanted to tell this to people. He wanted to tell this to somebody. But how do you tell this to somebody that you were in a mountain, that you were on a mountain before, now you're in your house and you were there, right? And that they for sure are not going to believe you. Then he looked out the window and he saw this guest. And he asked him, come inside. And he said to him, no, I don't have time because I'm going to you. So he said to him, what do you mean? This is a crazy thing. I'm here. Well, what do you mean you're going to me? I'm right here. So he answered him. The guest answered him. He says, at the time that you left the house with me, at the door, I took your neshama and I put a levush on it. I put a piece of clothing on it from the lower Garden of Eden. And your nefesh and your ruach are still with you, but your neshama I took. So when you think about your thought, you're there, and you are pulling this ha'ara from me to you, and when you come back to here, you're here. And I don't know. And then I guess this is Rebbe Nachman talking, or this guy talking. He says, I don't know what world he's from, but he's definitely from a good world. And this is not finished, and it's not complete. That's the story. What does it mean? I have no idea. But something that Rebbe Nachman said over, so I felt that it was important to say it.